All right, let's just do an update here. Let's see how much this original 6-pound sledge weighs now. Okay, 4 pounds, 7 ounces. I think we got some room to go, but hey, that's a really good start. All right, so what I'm gonna try and do here is change some belts, and I'm gonna try and grind all the square 4 flat faces to remove any of the mold from the hammer and make it smooth out nice. And then once I have these 4 areas squared, then I'm going to try and remove a little bit of width from this area right here just to shrink down. If we're at 4 pounds, about 8 ounces, and I can lose a little bit here in the width of this area around where the die hole is, then I might be able to shave off that extra, let's just call it a bit close to a pound. And I'm gonna grind these out and make them even up. So you'll see me switch from the flat platen over to what we call the small wheel grinder, and using the exact right fit for a wheel that is just slightly smaller than what you think would fit, because there's some separated space with the belt on top of the actuating device. But I switched between belts. Some of the aluminum oxide belts we're trying to get rid of, and some worn out belts back to some fresh belts, so I didn't grind off all my good grit with some of the fractions that I had on the sides from some of the angle grinding. So you'll see me go back and forth, and the camera's doing a lot of adjustment to try and capture the shot, but this is very tricky to keep lines straight when you're trying to keep things square or do the facets on this hammer. All right, now what we have here is the hammer after some of the initial grinding, and it's really starting to look like that $200 hammer. Now, some of my lines aren't exactly perfect, and I probably should have penciled those out. But again, some of the shapes really should have more curves than just straight edges. So I think this is really going to come together. I will say this: is it possible to turn a $20 to $30 handle into a $200 handle? Yes, I do believe it is. Is it worth it? That's probably an entirely different question. I probably spent 2 hours
between setup, angle grinding, camera work. Yes, so could you angle grind this in an hour? Probably, but it took a lot of work to measure the depth, try and be consistent in your lines, do all of these things in an accurate fashion with some symmetry, and it takes a lot of work. So is the $200 you pay worth it from a true smith who's going to have this tempered correctly, done, everything else? If you can afford it, I say that it is. If not, and you have to work on a budget, it is physically possible. You're going to take a lot of work to get it done.
This is the point where I just got impatient and said we're switching over to a brand new Cubitron belt 36 grit, and those belts are impressive. You better get your lines right, take a cut, and it digs in, and you just start working forward. So you'll see me be pretty cautious and pretty, angling my body consistently to get this right, but it came out looking awesome. Now that I'm finished with a lot of my facets, what I'm doing is I'm just trying to take off some of the weight against the flattened portion of the outside of the hammer around where the handle goes. And this is just to reduce weight to create an aesthetically pleasing flat surface that I might detail later. This is how this is coming out, and it's looking really good before I polish and get this up to a higher grit. Obviously you can see some of the yellow. It is heating this piece up, so hopefully the temper will still be okay. But I mean, honestly, for just giving this a go, this is getting to a much lighter weight, and I'm pretty happy with where this is at. I don't know what the swing will be, but I'm gonna polish this up and take my chances on where we're at this point. So this is going really well, better than I expected, to be honest. That looks really pretty. Okay, just flattening off some of these areas to polish. That's it. And then I'm going to be rounding the tops up here and rounding the face and just taking this little edge ring off the flat portion and making this pretty nice. Here we go. All right, so this is how this turned out. I think this thing looks really pretty good. Being that, obviously when prices were better, I bought this at 20 bucks. All right, we're zeroed.
And it looks like 3 pounds, 15 ounces.